You're listening to True Red Pill Alpha Male Anti-Cuck News. True Red Pill Alpha Male Anti-Cuck News. In this episode, putting drag queens in schools just wasn't enough for the Lgbt terrorists.
Trans people deserve love. The queer community deserves to be lifted up.
In Amazon's new demonic cartoon, transgender Satan teaches your kids to inject female hormones.
I was an Antifa member for 30 years, and I can confirm that Hazbin Hotel was a flagship part of our strategy to gayify the country.
All that and more presented by our true American patriot media experts. Fair and balanced here on True Red Pilled Alpha Male Anti-Cuck News. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is December 3rd, 2025, and we need to talk about a very serious and sober issue right now. Namely that there is a element of child lure media out there, as the term I've come to coin for it is, that's targeted at your kids. It says it's for adults, but as we'll get into in a moment, everything about the series is for kids, and it promotes all sorts of vices. It's not good. Just some of the short list I've taken down here is it includes demons from biblical pseudepigraphia. It directly attacks God and promotes a favorable view of Satan. It has drugs, prostitution, violence, cannibalism, pedophilia even. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, you must be exaggerating. No, this is all true. You can go verify this for yourself online. It depicts the murder of an entire family. And it also has pervasive, intrusive, and positively contrasted transgender and homosexual themes, thus pressuring children to adopt such views. This isn't a good series at all. But what makes it worse, and what sets it apart from the media filth that gets thrown around these days, we all know media is filthy, is the fact that this is a cartoon that is tacitly targeted at kids, even though the producers say it's for adults. That's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about child lure media and how you can protect your kids from it. This is a very important, sober topic for policymakers. It's important for parents and anybody who's concerned about the state of media in this country. So as soon as I make this, everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and tell me, oh, but Hazbin Hotel is made for adults. You can't criticize it. It's made for adults. It's not targeted at kids at all. And let's take that statement apart. In a purely denotative sense, that's correct. It's nominally assigned a target audience of adults. But that means absolutely nothing about who actually watches it. For example, a carton of cigarettes. You can go into a store and buy one. It says on the side, only for adults. But adolescents still manage to buy them, despite legal and retail obstacles. Quite formidable legal and retail obstacles in some cases. The audience of something, particularly given how easy the internet makes it to access things, isn't determined by who the producers say it's for. It's determined by the qualities of that something. The question isn't who is it designed for, but rather one of who does it appeal to. Hazbin Hotel parodically or referentially incorporates many design characteristics of cartoons. The series itself is a cartoon that were designed for an adolescent audience. Whether that inclusion is parodic, referential, whether it's homage or artistic allusion, is irrelevant to our analysis here, which is to look at the characteristics of the series and ask, what real audience does this appeal to? When one does this, it's quickly found that the stylistic, artistic, and narrative elements are by no means dissimilar to its antecedents, that is, cartoons for kids. Take one of the visual styles of the series. The character designs are literally cute, colorful, highly expressive, and merchandise-friendly in exactly the same way shows explicitly aimed at teens. You have big eyes, you have exaggerated proportions, i.e. neoteny. You have pastel-adjacent color schemes and constant emotive facial expressions that are not neutral artistic choices. They are proven psychological triggers that lower the age of peak emotional engagement. These are the same tools used by children in teen media for decades because they work especially well in developing brains. Now, we can further consider the narrative. The series' characters fit into compact, one-dimensional archetypes that would not be out of place in cartoons overly directed at adolescent audiences. These are drawn from hyper-relatable teen wish-fulfillment tropes alongside truly juvenile swearing and sex jokes. Notably, these are only humorous to those for whom such subjects are novel or forbidden in a sense. That is, teenagers. It's only funny to teenagers. So you have Charlie, your main character of the series, transgender Satan. I don't even know how they came up with the name Charlie. You have this overly earnest, naive idealist who believes in redemption and just wants everyone to get along. This classic precious cinnamon roll protagonist the teen audiences just latch onto. And then, oh my god, you have Vaggie. I don't know how that name got approved. I don't know how somebody came up with it. I don't know how they greenlit it. It's just so on the nose. Vaggie? I mean, you could just make the name Leslie or something. And that who's this protective tsundere girlfriend? Yeah, that's the influence of anime again. I don't care what people say. I think anime is satanic. And that's my honest, God-fearing opinion. You have also the unimaginably named Angel Dust, this tragic, queer-coded trauma boy who's a gay porn star. That's what we're teaching our kids to venerate this series. Gay porn actors. Tragic, queer-coded trauma boy who's masking everything with hypersexuality, and it's an archetype that dominates Tumblr and TikTok fandom. And then you finally have Alistair, this charming, omnipotent troll who breaks the fourth wall. These are one-dimensional character archetypes. They're from cartoons. So while the show might be overtly or denotatively described as an adult cartoon by its manufacturing apparatus, its features, and those are the important things you have to look at, the features of the show lend an appeal to an adolescent audience. Further, these are congruent to features in media explicitly oriented towards adolescents, which reinforces the appeal of the show to adolescents. Amazon, while it might be completely reviled for its business practices, fairly, certainly is shrewd enough to realize this. While Hazbin Hotel is overtly an adult animated series, there is a tacit understanding that a considerable portion of the show's potential viewership, i.e. market, is composed of adolescents. In short, calling Hazbin Hotel an adult show is like calling our energy drinks an adult beverage because they have caffeine and a warning label. The packaging says one thing. Yes, it's required to say that legally. Every other signal, the taste, the marketing, the actual consumers, tells you it's being chugged by 15-year-olds. So the relevant question isn't who is it nominally made for, it's who is actually watching, obsessing over, and emotionally imprinting on this show. And the answer is very clearly adolescents. For further illumination on the methods by which Hazbin Hotel signals its status as media targeted at children, we can turn to forms of biological mimicry, specifically aggressive mimicry. Now, Wikipedia, just for a very low-level introduction, defines this as, quote, aggressive mimicry is a form of mimicry in which predators, parasites, or parasitoids share similar signals, using a harmless model, allowing them to avoid being correctly identified by their prey or host. Zoologists have repeatedly compared this strategy to a wolf in sheep's clothing. A very accessible example of aggressive mimicry is the anglerfish, which uses a lure a bioluminescent lure that represents signals its prey wants to attract its prey. In like manner, Hazbin Hotel uses aggressive mimicry of children's and adolescent media, which is done through signaling via the cute animation style, neoteny, and character design features, along with swearing, borderline adult content, etc. So you see, it's including these things that are stereotypically part of children's media, even though it's not for children. But the inclusion of these things aggressively mimics children's media to the point of where there might be a misidentification by children of what they want to watch. As before, we can also recall tobacco industry strategies, which include selling an ostensibly adult product to adolescents via tacit signaling. Now, there's actual research on this. In an article in the Journal of Tobacco Control called Marketing to America's Youth, Evidence from Corporate Documents by Cummings, Morley, Oran, Steger, and Level, linked in the description, they said the following, quote, the documents reveal that the features of cigarette brands, that is, use of filters, low tar, bland taste, etc., packaging, that is, size, color, and design, and advertising, that is, media placements and themes and imagery, were developed specifically to appeal to new smokers, i.e. teenagers. So they're discussing corporate documents in this and how the corporate documents admit that teenagers are smoking their product. They know of this, and they're including deliberate features to make the product appealing to teenagers, even though they can't say that because they're selling cigarettes. There's this appeal of something forbidden. In like manner, I would not be surprised if documents at Amazon recognized the market appeal of Hazbin Hotel to kids and adolescents, yet they just can't say it because of the abhorrent content of the show. As previously, just saying a product is for adults doesn't determine its mass market appeal. That's determined by marketing and product features. Here are the show's visual design, character design, etc. So next we're going to look at the genealogy of the thematic and immoral content within Hazbin Hotel. The visual style and delivery of Hazbin Hotel has its roots in cartoons from the 2000s, classic Disney films, Broadway, and other American animation, as admitted by its creator, Ms. Medrano. The influences, however, are thoroughly foreign. Now, satanic animation, Satanimation as I call it for short, is a little portmanteau, starts in the 1990s with Evangelon, a blasphemous series from Japan. Now, Evangelon was created by Hideaki Anno, a known Japanese irredentist and Satanist. It featured not only attacks on Christianity and sacrilege of Christian symbolism, just go look this up, you can find this online on your own, but the characters in Evangelon, surprisingly enough, were named for warships that participated in the Pearl Harbor attacks. Just think of this mass tragedy and perfidy where so many Americans lost their lives, and in cartoons, they're naming characters after those ships. Just for comparison, imagine an episode of the children's program Barney that valorized the Al-Qaeda hijackers who perpetrated 9/11. Like, he goes and sings, I love you, you love me, we're going to blow up the Twin Towers.
I love you love me, we're a happy...
And this is what Anno actually did. Other influences are from musicals, Broadway musicals, many of which promote homosexuality. Now, there's many I could go into, but the most egregious example is Wicked, an aptly named musical if there ever was one. Wicked perverts the classic Wizard of Oz story, the Wizard of Oz we watch at Christmas. No, they decided they have to go and pervert this. And they change the nature of the relationship between the good witch and the bad witch. They're not enemies. They're not even friends. They're roommates, but not just that. They're also lesbians. Just like think of this. The good witch and the bad witch are roommates and they're lesbians. Like who thinks of this stuff? But this is the kind of filth that gets put out there, and there's actually like two really big Wicked films now. Again, an apt name if there ever was one, because the whole thing is wickedly homosexual. I need to do an entire video on Wicked, honestly. It's so bad, and it's another example of child lure media. Now it's time to get into one of the biggest influences and the one which I was most reticent to talk about just because it's going to be so difficult. Another influence includes furries. Yeah, so what are furries? Furries are a group who adopt perverted animal personae. That's just my description. To give a concise description of what furries are scientifically, we can turn to pertinent research. So there's an article by Sue and Bailey, 2019, in the Archives of Sexual Behavior that said the following, quote, "Furries are individuals who are especially interested in anthropomorphic or cartoon animals, e.g. Bugs Bunny." But that kind of understates it. So the same article characterizes furries as almost unfalteringly sexually motivated and also frequently homosexual. From the previous article, quote, 334 male furries were recruited from the internet about their sexual orientation, sexual motivation, and sexual interests. A large majority of our sample, 84%, reported non-heterosexual identities, and 99% reported some degree of sexual motivation for being furries. So you have people who are sexually obsessed with characters like Bugs Bunny. That's just great. Yeah, that's. Sometimes when making this, I question like, why does this stuff exist? But anyway, additionally, furries also frequently exhibit zoophiliac tendencies. So what is that? That's a sexual interest in animals, frequently involving animal abuse. As one of the elements evidencing this was a incident known by the name of one of the people involved, Mr. Hands, that was his pseudonym, a Boeing engineer who died after receptive homosexual/zoophiliac activity with a stallion. So they also abused a horse during this process. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, given just consequences for his actions, he died of peritonitis after his abdomen was ruptured in the course of the activity. Subsequently, we must confront the example of Nazi furries. Yeah, right. So, Nazi furries, as the name suggests, are furries, and they are also Nazis. They are a small but loud component of the furry milieu. There's an article from Slate from 2021 speaking about this. There is also an erotic computer game entitled Furry Hitler 2, distributed by Valve Software via their Steam service. Again, like just peddling video games, it's another major distraction to kids. If it were up to me, video games would all be illegal, but whatever. And anyway, in this Furry Hitler 2, the player assumes the role of a furry version of Adolf Hitler and acts in furtherance of orchestrating the Holocaust. I mean, I don't know how somebody could publish that without getting sued or without it getting shut down. I think free speech has gone a little bit too far ever since Snyder v. Phelps. Subsequently, there is the phenomenon of furry coprophilia, which is sexual arousal from feces, frequently featuring an obsession with diapers, which plays a prominent role in furry fan art. To further characterize this topic, I did research and found a specific example. So after doing some research, this is what I found of furry coprophilic fan art, and this is just disgusting. Let's just take a look at this whole thing. Take in the whole thing and think to yourself, like, what does it take to get a person to draw this? There's so many things to unpack here. First, you have this erotic obsession with the tail via the caudal interface. Like, notice how it's hanging on the toilet here. Then you have your elements revealing this coprophilic/erotic obsession. You have the toilet, you have the redundant and overfilled diaper, you have emotional and facial cues of the character that suggest distress and anger, so he's obviously pretty angry, revealing sadism and schadenfreude, and the hyper-obsession with facial cues, may also indicate autistic tendencies. Finally, you have your diaper, your safety pin, and booties, which are elements characteristically associated with infants. This can only suggest pedophilic influences. I don't know what else it could reasonably suggest. This is what appears to be, upon information and belief, a dinosaur seated upon a toilet or redundantly wearing a diaper. Just think to yourself, like, who draws this? What goes through a person's head to actually draw something like this and then share it online? Just as a general example, Hazbin Hotel is also rife with pornography. Here's one example. I had to censor it, unfortunately. Um, and of course, this is a parental guidance moment. If there are any kids, they shouldn't watch this. Um, this video isn't kid friendly in general. This is mainly targeted at parents who want to protect their kids from this filth. And here's another example that I also had to censor. Hazbin Hotel viewers frequently identify as zoophiliacs and or furries, leading them to engage in sex acts with animals. So here's figure 2. It's a mantra adopted by so-called Hazbin Hotel fans. It says wolf. And here's figure 3, a zoophilia promoting meme incorporating Hazbin Hotel characters. Also, here is some additional evidence that this is actually being viewed by adolescents. Here's an example of a cutout of transgender Satan that was put in a school. And look, there's students laughing at the guy who did this. I don't know about this. Like, there's like one kid laughing and another girl who looks like bewildered at it. Oh, this is just, I feel so bad for this guy. You know, he's gonna take this thing home later and like do homosexual or erotic things to it. I don't know. And here's even further evidence that one of my Twitter followers sent me. There's a coloring book, an actual like official coloring book made by the heads of the series over this. What, you expect adults to do a coloring book? But no, there's a coloring book based on Hazbin Hotel that's going to come out in whatever, July of 2026? No, June 2026. That's just great. So we have an actual coloring book of an adult animated series now, despite the fact that adults don't do coloring books. You know who does coloring books? Kids. The series is just like so cringe. I mean, look at this. Look at this fan art of like Hazbin Hotel characters. What the fuck? Honestly. Ugh. Like, who draws that?